All right, it is 12 o'clock, and I am joined with esteemed company today, my friend and colleague, Bisi MacGregor, who is a fearless business coach. A fearless business coach. I'm going to let that land for a little bit. What does that mean, BC? Because you had a storied career in finance. Why the pivot?
Ooh, I love that. Hey, Julia, for starters, thank you for having me on here. I love that. Why the pivot? And a lot of times I ask people, when people ask me, how did you get into this? I say, how did it get into me? Really, and I believe coaching has been a part of my life for a long time, but I never had a name for it. So even in my over 2 decades career in corporate finance, I coached a lot. I coached a lot of my teams. I coached up, coached sideways, all of that. And then life happened to me or for me. In retrospect, I think about it as for me. And it just came to a head where I came to the decision of where do I want to go next? What do I want to do? Do I want to continue in this career? I had served it. It had served me for over 20 years. And then I wanted to do something more.
Mm-hmm.
Really working more with more humans, more women to stretch themselves in ways where they could touch possibilities. And one of the things I found that they needed to cross, or I needed to cross, was fear. So I
Mm-hmm.
often say the gateway to our freedom is fear. Fear is that gateway we must pass through.
So paint the picture for me. You're in finance. You want to paint this picture of possibility for the women you're coaching, but how does fear very specifically keep someone from point A to getting to point B?
I love it. I love that. So let me take you back to New York City on the 30th floor in Hudson Yards. I'm in there in a conference room with powerful leaders in organization. We are rehashing, unfortunately, the same issue. It's probably like the third hour over and over. This was supposed to be a 60-minute meeting, and those of you in corporate area know about this, where it was 60 minutes supposed to be over, and 2.5 hours later, you're still there. And it was the same thing. And I remember having this presence on the inside of me that thought, I'm done with this. I no longer want this. Like, I could feel this thing on the inside of me that says, there's something more, there's something different. And then this other part of me saying, but wait, you can't leave. If you leave and go and start something else, you'd be starting from the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody would know you. You have already established something here. People know you here. You know your work. You can't start over. So fear can look that way. You can't start over. Do you even have the tools? You're trying to go into something that you've never done before. Are you sure you can succeed? What
Mm-hmm.
if you succeed? What if many more people want more of you? Then what? What happens when you fall on your face and you have to get up and face the crowd? Like, what are you going to do? And that played for me for a number of years before I put a stake in the ground and said, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this.
But bridge the gap for me. So what I'm hearing you say is that all the stories you were telling yourself translate into the fear. Right?
Mhm.
All those scripts that are bubbling up. What if I fail? What if no one knows me? I'm starting from the bottom. Those are stories you're telling yourself. Clearly, you've crossed with a bridge, but how did you connect to the possibility and overcome your fear?
So here's again back to another story. So it came to a point where I was in my life where I'm trying to figure out, what do I want to do with my career? And in my personal life, my marriage was dwindling. So both personal and private, personal and professional life are at a head. And I remember I thought to myself, I need some time to go hear my own thoughts, because I felt like I couldn't hear me. I cannot hear me. Where do I need to go? What is going on? My back is against the wall. And I took a road trip to Massachusetts, to a yoga and meditation center, just to go have some time to hear myself. And I remember, I never forget, on the way, at the third hour into my drive, I'm on there and something says, you can turn back, because there's nobody there. You don't know anyone there. Like, this is way too risky. It is way too risky, and it's still the same thing. It's this fear. It's too risky for you to go out there. You're not protected. You're not safe. But I pushed through.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got there, I decided to sign up for a program for that weekend. And the program said, live your life, your soul was intended. And I could have sworn it said, Bisi, live your life that your soul was intended. It was definitely for me. And I walked into that and I listened to this lady just mentor to the women that were in the group. And my soul recognized her. And it just said to me, that is it. She is the founder of the Fearless Living Institute. And that's where I enrolled and got certified. I essentially went back to school for a year to get trained as a certified fearless living coach and trainer.
All right. So we're going to share that methodology now, right? The 3 steps essentially to break out of fear. But before we go there, when you're coaching a lot of women today, you're in the front on the front lines. What would you say is the topmost fear women professionals have today?
Yeah. So there are a couple, and one big one is they do not feel safe to be seen. And seen could be also their voice. I don't know if my voice is right, if it would be acceptable. Should I not? So they kind of they straddle this fence of I have a strong voice. I know it. But is it good enough? How about I reel it back? Let me refine it first before I put it out there.
So they're seeking permission.
Seeking permission, huge,
Mm.
huge.
Folks, if you are listening, I encourage you to write your questions in the comments section. BC and I are going to run through the framework, and then she's going to take your questions. This interview is really for you. So please start to populate the comment section, and we're going to get to your questions. So women are seeking permission, BC, to be able to be seen and be heard.
Yes.
And is the
Yes.
framework we're going to share right now going to help bridge some of that gap?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'd love to share this with you, Joya. I was born in the United States and to an immigrant family, Nigerian. And I went back to Nigeria between the ages of 4 and 16. I lived in Nigeria between the ages of 4 and 16. So I have a very strong cultural background. And for those that share that kind of background, you know it's very permission based.
Mm-hmm.
There is this is the way, this is what you do at 18, this is what you do at 22, this is what you're supposed to do at 40. And if you do not if you're not in alignment with that, something feels off. Even if you're not chastised, something feels off because that is how you are brought up. So for the longest time within me, I think my journey was seeking this permission. Can I, should I, and when?
So our conditioning plays a piece in why fear trumps a lot of action. And I know that I come from an Asian culture where we are raised to be very deferential. And if we're not, if we have our own mind, especially as a girl and our own voice, it's seen as rebellious. And our
Yes.
likability is always, until we enter the workforce, been our superpower. And now all of a sudden, we've got to be liked in a different way. So let's get to the first one.
Yeah.
Awareness. What does this mean when you're trying to break out of the fear cycle?
This is the biggest piece for me. And it's the one thing that really, it's a turnkey of everything, because without awareness, you have no idea. I truly believe there are more people walking asleep than are awake. What do I mean by that? One of the statistics that I came upon in my journey was a research study that speaks to 75% of our decisions are rooted in fear. Most of the time we're saying yes to a thing we want to say no to, and no to a thing we want to say yes to. And then, the next day we say, you know what, I'm not going to do this. We go to bed, we've done it again. Because our brain is wired that way, to just pick up what we have done. When it looks similar, this is the answer. So what we are called to do is to dial up our level of awareness. How do we make decisions? Pausing in between our decisions, giving ourselves time to say, is this what I want? Is this fear or freedom? Am I making a decision, or is it my fear? And then you have, even in awareness as well, you have the space where some people are not wanting to make the decision because what if it doesn't work?
So to reflect back, though, what you're really advocating there is not only checking what's going on in the subconscious. And we know that 95% of what we're doing is on autopilot because our subconscious is driving that.
Yeah.
And that was imprinted when we were 7, 10 years old, and we haven't stopped to check. But we also have to build in time in our schedules. Maybe not go to that extra baseball game, maybe not go out for that extra drink with your friends, and build in time to reflect. Because otherwise the awareness bubble just isn't going to be able to come up to the surface.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That time is so crucial. That pause. And even in that pause, our fear says, well, you should be answering the question right now.
Mm-hmm.
You should go right now. And it's such a gift to give ourselves just insert pauses. Insert pauses. It is such a powerful practice, and there's clarity in the pause.
Mm-hmm.
There's permission in the pause for what it is that you want. Because otherwise, what happens is when you give that over to fear would have you either constricted,
Mm-hmm.
you get smaller, it would have you condemning other people, you're blaming everybody else for what's going on, or it will have you conforming because it says it is too risky for you to stand out. So awareness is, how do I make decisions? Do I even make decisions? Not giving myself an out.
Mm-hmm.
Am I clear about what I want? Because I truly believe also in the decision making, when you make a decision is when you have created the thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you articulate it out loud.
You articulate it out loud. Exactly. Which is yet another step, right? That fear says, wait, okay, I know this is what you want to create inside of you, but don't say it out loud to people.
One of the ways that I reflect every Sunday, which is when I do my strategic thinking, I look at the week that's passed, I look at the week that's coming up, and I ask myself 3 important questions. To your point about awareness, where am I? Where do I want to be? And what needs to change? So I did this exercise 2 weekends ago, and one of the things that came up is that I really need more pockets of time to do deep work, because I'm fearful that I have this vision for my business and I don't have the bandwidth to achieve it. And the only way it's going to happen is that I got to start saying no to stuff. I've got to turn off the notifications. I've got to put on my autoresponder and say, I will get back to you tomorrow because I'm working on an important project. But if I hadn't taken time to take stock and ask that all important question, what needs to change? I don't know if I would have arrived at that conclusion.
Yeah, so right. And most people don't. One of the big things that has changed for me with navigating, moving from corporate to entrepreneurship has been me just having this vast amount of time, space that I gift to myself. Mm-hmm. Before I got on the call, I've gone out for a walk in a park. A lot of times I'd go sit by the lake or walk by the lake just to be in the presence of nature and to hear myself. And what happens in those pockets of spaces is trumps sometimes what I could do in 5 hours, just tittering away at my computer, because the one insight that you're looking for all of a sudden drops in the silence.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
This morning I was on a call with one of my members, and right before we moved to the next piece, it was, she's like, I procrastinate by gardening. And we were like, well, why poo-poo that? Because you are giving your brain a break. And sometimes your best ideas are bubbling up while that part of your brain that's doing the deep thinking gets a little bit of rest.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I do a lot of play with my niece and nephews.
Yes. I see that on Facebook.
Yes, I do. It's necessary for me. It's one of the things that fuels me, not only me, my heart, but it fuels my business.
And we forget to play.
Oh.
So folks who are just joining us, Bisi MacGregor is a fearless coach. We are talking about this in the context of business, and we're talking about her framework for breaking out of the fear cycle. And step 1 is to build awareness. If you aren't aware of what you're recovering from, you can't recover. And the next step is awaken, Bisi. What does that mean, awaken?
I love this bit because I believe something begins to happen when you become aware that, okay, I could make that decision out of freedom. Something begins to get clear on the inside of you. Something begins to bubble up in the surface that I am capable. I can do this, and here's my belief. Everything you need to get you to your next level, to achieve that audacious goal, to stand up for yourself, to hear the strength of your voice has already been inside of you. It simply needs to be aware of and awakened.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. And there is a fantastic tool that I learned at the Fearless Living Institute that I use to kind of awaken and stretch myself. It's
Mm-hmm.
called the Stretch, Risk, or Die tool,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you think about three concentric circles, like
Right.
big, bigger, biggest,
Yeah.
and that middle part be your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
That's life as it is right now. It's what you do. So think about, as you're listening to me right now, just think about the goal that you're wanting to achieve. And
Mm-hmm.
what I want you to do is kind of paint the picture of what you do today. Who are you today in service to that goal? That's
Mm-hmm.
your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. That's your comfort zone. If it's a health goal, you're trying to lose 10 pounds, what do you do today? I eat whatever it is. Put that in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Now, the next ring is called the stretch zone. Now, this ring is so important because this is where most people beat themselves up. And it's also where we build our confidence because it contains the things that we know we can do. We just don't do them. So, what you want to do is take that goal and think about what are three things that I know I can do in order to lose the weight. I know I can do it. I just don't. Could I go for a 30-minute walk? Could I drink more water? I know I can do this. I don't. Just come up with three things and put that in that second circle. That's the stretch. Now the next ring is the risk zone. Now this takes a little bit more courage because you're not sure if you could do it. However, it might be a step necessary to reach that goal. What are two things? What are two things that you're not sure? I don't know how to do it. It might be hard. Just two things. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have all of that space outside of the third ring. All that
Mm-hmm.
space is the die zone. And it feels just like that.
Yeah.
Feels like that thing when someone says, Joya, how about we go jump out of a plane? And you go, "Okay, this interview's
Well, I'm
over."
going to push you.
Exactly. That's a die zone. And you just come up with one thing, just
Mm-hmm.
one thing. That's it. Because what happens is, Joya, most of us, we take a goal and we lump it up into this one big thing and we go try to attack it. And
Yeah.
then it's too big.
Yeah.
We see this at the onset of new months, new years, new quarters. This is my year. This is my quarter. And 12 days later, we've lost steam.
Well,
Because
one of the things that I think about that I've actively done is I was at this juncture, right? I want to build a business at this revenue goal. I'm currently at this revenue goal. And I remember reading an article that you are the sum of the 5 people you want to surround yourself with. And if you're thinking about changing something, take stock of those 5 people because chances are you're not having the conversations about how to get to that goal. You're not surrounded by the attitude that it takes to that goal. You're not even dreaming that big in that goal. Like if you said it, people will be like, who do you think you are?
yes,
And so I remember making that very active change because it was okay to have that big, hairy, audacious goal in
yes.
this new circle because those people already facile in that language.
Yes, so, so important. Community, being around, oh my goodness, so crucial. So,
Hmm.
what you want to do, and I love that you brought that up, what you want to do is forget about the risk and the die zone for now.
Hmm.
Because the risk and the die zone is what causes us to procrastinate. It what
Yeah.
causes us to overwhelm, the shutdown, all of that. Forget about those things. They're way too scary. Just take on your stretch.
Hmm.
Is there one person you can connect with that dreams a little bigger than you or has the thing that you want to achieve? Can you join a new networking group? One thing, those things you can do that you're not doing, that's what you want to just double down on. That's it.
Yeah.
And what begins to happen is so powerful. Your stretch zone becomes your comfort zone. Your comfort zone essentially just enlarges, right? Your risk
Yeah.
zone becomes a stretch. That die zone that would have taken you out is no longer so scary.
Well, you bring up the skydiving analogy, and with my women's leadership platform, one of my things that I do are these big over the top events in other countries and other cities. You came to my Boston event, and that was a stretch, right? You came all the way from Atlanta for one night. But for me, I think that's a metaphor. That is a metaphor because if I take you and I put you on a boat in the middle of the Adriatic for 7 days, something you've never done before, all of a sudden I put you in that stretch zone. What else becomes possible for you? What else becomes possible for you in business? What else becomes possible for you in life? You've already stretched this much. Now let's start to entertain those other conversations. And that is why people are like, oh, you come up with these crazy ideas. You're taking people to Morocco. It's a metaphor for what I'm trying to do in the other places. There's some comments starting to come in, BC. I love it. So let's get through this. 3 steps to break out of your fear cycle. Number 1 was awareness. Number 2 was awaken. And number 3 is activate. What does this mean? Activate.
Ooh, I love this part too, because once you have awakened a thing, think about, I don't know what your favorite car is, but think about having that Maserati. It's just sitting in your driveway. It's turned on. The ignition, you've turned it on. You can hear the exhaust. And then what? You got to put your foot to the pedal so that you can hear it, so you can move. And this is where you get to activate the beliefs, the mindset, the behaviors. I love that you said you're literally taking your leadership team, clients out and taking them. That's an activation of sort. One of the things that I have found with us women, especially, we're constantly waiting for the finish line before we assess if we passed or failed, or if we did it right or not, because our fear has convinced us you should have done it faster, better, before now, perfect. And it goes on and on and on and on. And here's what I have learned and discovered about fear. It might motivate you. Fear might be motivating, but it would never let you be satisfied. So in the step of activation, this is where I teach my clients the right to almost kind of empower them to take on the right to pat themselves on the back and appreciate and love themselves as is. So with each movement outside of your comfort zone, you got to acknowledge that. Celebrate that. I don't care how tiny it is.
I love that you say that, because I start all of my calls. You sat on one of the peer mentoring calls I do, and I often marvel at how hard it is for someone to say, I won at something last week. Like, they really have to search in the deep recesses of their brain to say, this was a win for me last week, because we are always on to the next, and we don't stop to say, but look at how far I've come.
Yeah. Yes. I had a call with one of my clients this week, and I asked the same question, so where have you stretched yourself? Where have you acknowledged yourself? And at first she was stumped. And then we dug through, and she realized she was simply discounting all of the things, her weight loss journey, her business journey, how she had been showing up, even her showing up on the call, despite everything that was on her plate. And we do this because we have been conditioned to, it's bigger, it's better. It has to be bigger in order to acknowledge it. And what you want to start doing is really acknowledging even the tiniest steps, the tiniest of steps, because think about how long your fear has kept you in your comfort zone. Think about how long you have played the tune of, I'm a procrastinator. I just wish I could.
Yeah. But also, we think we don't have time to acknowledge those wins, but truly sitting in gratitude for that win is what galvanizes all the good juju for that next thing that you want to have happen.
Yes.
I want to remind everyone here to please put your questions in the chat. BC and I are together for maybe another 10, 15 minutes, and we are running through her framework on how to break the fear cycle in business. Awareness, awaken, activate is what we've covered off so far, BC. You want to talk about building confidence, because that's an incredible ingredient too.
Yes, I love this. So many people say, I just need to have the confidence, and then I can go out there and, do these speaking engagements that you're doing. I just need to build confidence first. And it's such a myth and a misdirection, because confidence isn't a thing that we get. It's not a thing that I can just, let me drink a cup of confidence and that's it. No.
Or go and buy it off the shelf at Walmart.
Exactly. No, it doesn't work that way. Confidence is a result. It is a consequence of your action. So it's what we build when we step out of our comfort zone. That's the result of stepping out of your comfort zone. When you step out and you see, whoa, okay, it looks like I can dream bigger. Well, let me try bigger. And then that's how you build confidence. So you take action and confidence builds. Let's think about our little ones, the babies. They never wait till age 6 before they decide to take a step.
Right.
They get up, they take a step, they fall. Okay, get up. And we, the adults around us, say, wait a minute. Don't run too fast. You don't run too fast. You're gonna fall, right?
Mhm.
They get up, step out of what has been their comfort zone of crawling, take a step, fall.
Mm.
Wait, I think I can take 2 more steps, get up and fall. And so that is how you build confidence. So literally what I just shared with you, that tool, stretch, risk, or die, using that, you can use it for any area of your life.
Yes.
This is how you build a confidence.
I'm getting a question here, and I'm asking a clarifying question. Vera Mukherjee is joining us, and she said, "This is a great conversation." Vera, I know you and I have talked about overcoming fear in the past. Share a question for me and BC as we're having this conversation. I have a question here from a woman who says, my culture has drummed a lot of fear into me. The expectations that my parents have for me have drummed a lot of fear, and it keeps me from my goals and the things that I want. What would be your answer to that, BC?
I see you. First of all, when you said that, my whole body just responded because I see you, I feel you. I'm in the same boat.
Hmm.
And it's interesting how these days I'm called higher and higher to this conversation
Hmm.
that we can build what we want and desire despite our culture.
Hmm.
So the what I can tell you is to hang on, number one, continue dreaming and know that it's possible.
Hmm.
And dial into, really use this tool. What is the one baby step that you can take? I promise you, you're going to be okay. I faced the same thing when it was time to get a divorce.
Mm.
What's going on? You can't do this.
Hmm.
What are we going to tell the other people? And I had the option of stay in a marriage and just suffocate
Hmm.
so I can
Let
please,
your spirit die on the vine.
let my spirit die whilst I please the family or the culture, or take control of my life.
But what's that next step, BC? When someone is that's an overwhelming decision to make. Leave my marriage, define my family. What would be that one next step to take?
So it would really be making a decision of what you want. It goes back to that awareness. I love that there's the awareness of my culture has played this part. Got it. We know that. We know that. What do you want?
Hmm.
Like really knowing what that distinction is. What do you want? Get clear about it and then make a decision around it. And knowing that in that decision, all this other stuff is still going to happen. Like your culture does not need to not exist anymore in order for you to live. That's
Yeah,
one of
it's
the
not
things
mutually
that
exclusive.
right. So it's really making a decision. That's the first thing. Make a decision. What do you want?
Hmm.
Yes, culture, we know what culture wants of you. What do you want? And I
I
think
agree.
that's huge. Sorry to cut you off. I think that's huge with us with a strong culture because for so long, culture dictated where we ought to be. And
Right.
for a lot of people, they're clouded. They're not even sure what they want.
Yeah. And to echo what you said earlier, we're on autopilot.
Yes.
We're on autopilot based on somebody else's expectations. And I have a woman in my mastermind who remembers there was a moment where all her life she'd been told what to do. And she all of a sudden had marriage, the kids, the house, and was like, but did I even ask for any of this? Or was this what somebody else wanted for me?
Mm,
We have
yeah.
another question coming in, which is that I work in a male dominated environment. And so, as you can imagine, fear is a big part of why I don't speak up, why I might be ridiculed, why I don't say, even though I know I have the solution to the problem. So, what would you say to that, BC?
Yeah. So again, I've definitely been in this situation many times, either the only woman in the room or the only black person in the room, all of that. And here's one thing though, I do want to bring your attention to that fear, the feelings of fear, sure, it's real in our body, but it's not necessarily real.
Hmm.
Will you be ridiculed? Probably not. And let's just say you are. Let's even just go to the extreme that you would be. You will be okay. You will be okay. I think that that's something that I've also learned in this journey, like really holding myself through my fears, through this journey, and really caring so much for me. And what I would say is, again, this what's the tiniest step you could take?
Mhm.
If it's one thing you're going to say in that room, that's it. And one of the things I discuss with my clients is walking into meetings with an intention. What is your intention?
Mhm.
And what I mean by what your intention is how do you want to show up?
Mhm.
Who are you going to be? Not what are you going to do? Who
Yes.
are you going to be? What is your intention? Because when you walk into a room with an intention, you're in service to that intention. What is expected of you is just, by the way, that's external to you. That's why it's called expectation. It's external to you. So
Mhm.
if, for me, I remember there came a point where in corporate, I said, my intention here is to be a great listener.
Mhm.
I walk into that room, full body listening.
Mhm.
So the noise about, oh my God, what am I going to contribute here? It's not there. And the moment I speak up, it's with full intention. It's not coming from a place of fear.
The next question is, how do I build awareness? This person is stumped on. I get that building awareness is important, but what's a tactical way that I can build awareness? For
Mhm.
me, it's journaling. I find that when I do that thought dump on paper, that's where I start to connect dots that I haven't connected before. That's my way of building my awareness muscle. But what would you recommend?
Yeah, I love that journaling. I do that every day. It's one of my practices. For me, it's been a lot of pauses
Mhm.
and really asking myself, what do I want? What do I want? Like really interrupting, what do I want? And I'm talking about even going to the basics. What's your favorite color? Do you like this color? Do you like this?
Mhm.
What do I want? You go to a restaurant with a friend, with a partner, and you ask, what should we order? You make a decision. What do I want? Like really just being very, very conscious. This is going to snap us out of the autopilot. And that's awareness, right? It's that autopilot. It's us really walking awakened and interrupting and asking ourselves those questions. So yes, I love the journaling. I love the taking out time for yourself, pausing, asking yourself questions. Yeah.
This next question is about imposter syndrome, because you can have fear, but then there's something that's even trumping that, which is imposter syndrome. And so, do you have any suggestions on how to overcome that?
Mhm. So this tool that I have shared with you today, and if you're just joining us, make sure you watch this from the beginning because this is super practical and powerful, and this could be used even for that. And imposter syndrome in my life, I've had the moments where I'm in a room and I think to myself, oh my God, I don't belong here. How did I get here? I don't belong here. But the truth is, I am here. Like I am here. And here's what I know. If you're an imposter, you don't have the syndrome. You would not have the syndrome, you know? And the question for me also is, what are you expecting?
Hmm.
What are you expecting to feel, to be, to do? What are you expecting to feel in this space? And
Hmm.
going back to your intention, how do I want to show up?
Hmm.
Who do I want to be? Really from a place of freedom, not a place of, because imposter for me is, it says there's this bombardment of you are supposed to be at this place, this position in order to belong in this room, or you're supposed to have achieved XYZ in order to speak on that topic. Says who?
Hmm. Well, you referenced something that I think feeds into the science of fear, and I don't know if that we covered off on that. Our brains are designed to keep us safe.
Mhm.
Our brains are designed to keep us in our comfort zone. Why? Because thousands of years ago, our ancestors were out hunting and gathering, and they were pattern matching for threats.
Yes.
And if the fear mechanism, which sits in your amygdala, didn't kick in, it's the difference between you living and dying. It's the
Yep.
difference between you being eaten by a lion and not.
Yep.
And so we haven't evolved that far. That fear mechanism still kicks in when a threat is imminent.
Yep.
I might be ridiculed in this meeting. I may not be speaking up the way I need to. That fear mechanism is still kicking up. Those chemicals are still coursing through your brain. But how do you push past that?
Yeah. And so again, going back to this tool, that's it. It's the awareness, really, really being aware that 75, and now that we've had this conversation, I think you're going to pause more because I shared earlier on, 75% of your decisions are rooted in fear. Decisions. Think about how many times we're making a decision in a day. Should I make the coffee now? Should I have coffee or tea? Should I wear white or black? Those are all micro decisions, but decisions nevertheless. And to your point, our brain doesn't know the difference if we're watching TV, if the monster is in the TV, or if it's in our front door. So really, the awareness really just, again, is this me or is this my fear? Who's in the driver's seat?
Right.
Who made this decision for me? Me or my fear? Me or my fear? And then when you make your decision, it's, what's my next step? I want to do this. Okay, what's the smallest step I can take towards where I want to go? Take that step. But know that every time you step out of your comfort zone, your fear is going to kick in. Because its job, again, is to keep you in your comfort zone. So anytime you venture out of your comfort zone, even if it's a new thought, your fear is going to kick in and say, where are you going? You need to be within the walls of your comfort zone, right? And that right there is the junction where you make yet another decision. I see you. I know you're trying to keep me safe, but I'm willing to do this. And you move.
And one of the things that it's maybe worth even investigating is, what is the worst case scenario if I do this? And can I handle it? What is the worst case scenario if I decide that I'm going to speak up in this meeting? Will I be fired?
Yeah. That is so powerful, the worst case scenario. And a lot of times, I mean, with my clients, I thought all of these things and nothing happened. Nothing happened, or it wasn't even what I expected at all. This happens all the time. And I might add, this is how we build our capacity for more. The more we can hold the disappointments, the more we can hold our hearts breaking, because that's what we don't want to feel. We don't want to feel the heart breaking. We don't want to feel disappointed. We don't want to feel the overwhelm. But the more we can feel everything, the more we can do or have anything we want.
See it as a growth opportunity, as
It is.
nothing else, if you can. The last question here is, sometimes fear is masked as anger. Fear can show up as anger, whether you're on the receiving end or you're the person who's actually the perpetrator. What is your answer to that?
I love that. And that to me tells me whoever asked that question also has a deeper level of awareness. As well. And what I would even invite you to do is to stay with that, to explore. Just earlier this week, I had a conversation with a client who went from anger to, now I'm just releasing. It's just tears. And they noticed that shift. And sometimes it is a process. A lot of times we don't allow ourselves to process our emotions. And it comes out in anger. It comes out lashing out at other people, or even inwards, lashing out at ourselves. And like I said just a few moments ago, if we can allow ourselves to feel the gamut of our emotions, we can have anything. Allow yourself to be mad, to be sad, to be angry. It will pass. But what many people do is we bottle it up for fear of, then my reputation is at stake. I'm not going to be loved. I might lose this. I might lose that. So we bottle it up and we don't process it. And that's what bursts out into anger. But it will pass. So really starting to cultivate this habit of, I'm sad, honor it. Honor it. Just be aware, honor, journal if you need to journal, go run, work out, do whatever it is you need to do. Allow the process to process, allow your feelings to process, and then revisit your commitment.
What I'm also hearing you say, though, is when you label it, this is fear, this is anger. It's a negotiation technique I learned from Chris Voss, who used to be a former FBI negotiator. No other interaction is going to be more tense or fear-filled than a hostage negotiation. But one of the things that he does as a technique, and he teaches today, is to label what it is that people are talking about or expressing at that moment. And so I'm hearing you say the same thing. If you label it, it gives you a little distance from it.
Yes.
And it gives you more of the capacity to deal with it.
Absolutely. I love that, because usually I would say, once you can name the thing, it no longer has power over you.
Right.
Once you can give it a name, it's like, oh, okay, I see you. It's anger. Yes. And I know and I experience this. This is me. This is anger.
Yes.
There's a separation. We're
Yeah.
not it.
And going back to the science, because I love the science of this kind of thing, is that when you label it, it also is giving your brain it
Mhm.
downshifts from all those chemicals that are now coursing because of fear. Because
Yes.
you've put it in a compartment.
Yes, exactly.
Carol Lopez Smith asks, "Do you have a podcast, BC?"
Hey, Carol, I do not have a podcast.
But maybe
However,
we
I
should
play a
start.
lot. Say that again.
Maybe you should start.
Maybe I should start.
BC, let's bring it home here. It's 12:40. If anyone wants to work with you or find you on social media as Carol wants to, what's the best way?
So I play a lot on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and it's Bisi MacGregor. That's
And what
it.
is your website?
BisiMacGregor.com.
Awesome. Any last words before we part today?
So I'd love to leave you with this. And I know we talk about fear as this thing that's scary that keeps us from, all the things we want. And I would love to offer you this perspective that fear, as one of my mentors says, Rhonda Britton, fear is an affirmation of your growth.
Mm,
Because if you think about it, the only time it rears its head is when you're venturing out of your comfort zone. So
yes.
get excited when your fear peaks. I'm playing at the edge of my comfort zone. What am I going to create?
And have fun with it, it sounds like. Have
Yeah.
fun with it. If you want to get a hold of me on social media, it's at Joya Das. BC, you and I talked about this at the dinner table in Boston. I have a mastermind. And what I'm really looking for is women who have dealt with the fear, have some certainty around a goal that they want to achieve, but they don't have the right group or the right accountability around them in order to achieve it. And so that is what I am in service of. That is what I can create for you. So if there's anyone listening out there, Carol, Vera, if you would like to be in a mastermind because you have a goal that you want to achieve and realize, I would love to help you get there. Vera says, thank you. Carol says, thank you. BC,
You're
thank
welcome.
you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you for this platform, Joya. It's
You are
incredible.
welcome. So many truth bombs in this.
Mm,
Thank
love
you
it.
again.
Thank you.